start the recording, and then I will share my entire screen. Sweet. Okay, now we come over here to the course content section. Grab the first assignment. Pew, 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 pew. And we'll grab, oh, this should be here. There we go. Well, maybe not. Maybe it should be here. Okay. Free Will Problem by Robert Kane. Go ahead and download that. Open that up with Adobe Reader. Blackberry, Ah! No, I don't want to start a tour. Okay. Free will problem. Cool. All right. And let's see. Can y'all hear me okay at home? Well, you'll hear me even better when I get, oh, great. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Excelente. Okay. Yes. Yes. All right. Let's see. What do we want to do here? We've got our free will problem thing. We've got that document, that document. Okay. A lot of people logged in online. That's okay. That is just fine. Okay. Let's see. We won't need that, so I can close that tab. And yeah, free will problem. Okay. While we're awaiting the few remaining students who are going to be showing up, either online or in class, I wanted to ask whether anyone had any questions about the upcoming assignment, right? This is the assignment instructions that are up on Blackboard, and this is a good opportunity to raise any questions you may have about how that should be formatted, what should be included, what shouldn't be included, anything like that. I am eager to answer questions, if such there be. Porque si hay preguntas, hay respuestas. Yeah. Questions? Would MLA format be okay? That's a good question. So the short answer to that question is yes, but the longer answer is I don't really care about the format. As long as the content is there and it's not plagiarized, that's really, I'm good, you know. I don't need it to look pretty. I don't need it to be, I don't want you spending time worrying about formatting issues. That being said, I do want you to scan your paper before you submit it to make sure that it doesn't contain any of this stuff, because this stuff irritates the hell out of me and is likely to cause me to be less charitable about the grading. And actually, it has bleed over effects. So, like for example, if you put a rhetorical question into your paper, I'm probably going to get upset at, not only at that, but at the next student for no reason. You know, so do yourself and other people a solid and just, you know, try to respect these rules that are in there. Okay, good, because I already started. Are we able to send you a paper for review? Sure, yeah, absolutely, anytime. I'm always happy to to look at drafts of people's work and to give them feedback on it. I've actually done it a few times already this semester for this class. So people are already sending them in. I know I've got two, I think there are two waiting in my inbox right now that I haven't gotten to yet, but I will. And sure, you're welcome to send me anything. What's the latest you would review a draft? That's a good question. Well, you know, I mean, I check my email every day, and I'm sensitive to the fact that people are working on their papers over the weekend. So I'm going to be reviewing and commenting on drafts. Definitely, I mean, if there's demand for, probably on Saturday, maybe even a little bit on Sunday.
Saturday's the 19th?
Saturday is the 19th, yeah. So it's in your best interest to get it to me sooner rather than later, because if I get a surge of requests to review a draft late, then I may not be able to get to all of them, but I will try. So sooner the better, but I will endeavor to be as helpful as I can in your writing process. Is that okay of an answer, Eric? I don't know if that's satisfactory. Oh, good. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Other questions? No? We good? Instructions were relatively clear? Relatively? Anyway. Okay. Even if I'm not done, could you look at it? Yes, yes, absolutely, Shelley. I'm happy to look at portions of drafts. Sometimes people just want to send me individual paragraphs and just ask, is this in line with what you're looking for? Is this kind of in the ballpark? And then, if I say yes, then that helps them develop the rest of the paper. So absolutely. Turn in by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. That is correct, yes. And that's going to be turned in via email, right? You're going to email that to me. Do not upload that to Blackboard, right? Don't try to send it to me through Blackboard. There's all kind. I've had bad experiences with that. If you send me an email directly that has that paper in it, I will send you a confirmation email within 24 hours that I've received it, and that's how you'll know I've got it. Okay? Okay, awesome. Very good. Okay, other questions? Other questions? Yeah? All right. Let's see. No, sir. Okay, that's fine. Cool. All right. So, what are we going to be doing? I'm going to take us into the kind of beginnings of our next topic. Although I'm happy to field questions about, the philosophy of religion stuff if you have that. But otherwise, I'd like to just kind of start us off thinking about this free will issue and see if we can't generate some interesting lines of thought that are that help prepare us for the actual readings. On that front, if you look at the course content link, is this showing up here? Yeah. If you look at the course content link, you will see that there's, after the first assignment instructions, we get a list of documents. This one's 3 theories and 3 questions. I just made that before class, but it's going to become a really important document for us to refer back to. I will talk about that more in a moment. But this here, the free will problem by Robert Kane, that's this. It's a chapter. It's actually the first chapter out of a book by this guy Robert Kane. And Robert Kane is a professor of philosophy. I think he's still at UT Austin. And he works in the area of free will. He has a particular, he has a position on free will, but this first chapter is just a discussion of how the problem gets generated, like how people have come to worry about whether we have free will and exactly what that free will amounts to. So it's a kind of stage setting paper. And what I'm going to do is I would like to ask you, or I am asking you, to please read this after you're done sending me your paper, right? Your paper for the philosophy of religion stuff. The first assignment is by far the most important thing, but after you're done with that, please get into reading this piece, The Free Will Problem. We are going to pretty quickly transition from discussing just the introductory stuff about the free will problem to this paper that I've just called Hard Determinism by this long deceased guy, Baron Henri d'Holbach. He's very French, and we'll look at his view. Okay, so the plan is first your paper, then the free will problem, and then Hard Determinism, Henri d'Holbach. And we'll be discussing these in turn. Okay, let me pull up our handy-dandy ongoing. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should make a whole new one just for free will. I will do that. Let's make a whole new document just for free will. Okay, very cool. And we'll make this nice and big, and we'll turn this into my favorite font, and we'll do the paragraphing the way I like to do it. Okay, fabulous. Okay. Freedom, right? Like,
Free men you are. What will you do without freedom? Will you fight? Fight against that? No! We will run! And we will live. Die. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Oh man, that's poignant. Okay, so I love that, right? You may take our lives, but you'll never take our freedom. Yeah, classic line from Braveheart, right? One of Mel Gibson's better films. So here is a good question to ask when you're sort of thinking about a philosophical issue, is just to ask sort of fundamental questions like this. Why does freedom matter to us? What is so special that we do with our freedom? So I I want to actually ask this question. Like I want to solicit answers from you. So what do you think? What is it that makes freedom this thing that people are willing to fight for, kill for, die for, that they spend a lot of time worrying about legislation about freedom, they worry about governmental control of your freedom? Well, what's the big deal? I mean, what are you even using your freedom for?
I think us living in America, it's kind of like our shtick, like freedom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like all we've known all our life. And I think that with freedom, you can just do whatever you enjoy, I guess, because some countries, they limit what you can and can't do.
Yeah, so, okay, so the student said that in America, I like the way you put it, in America it's kind of our shtick to be free. Yes, we are the land of the free, or so they say. And then you followed it up with, we can do what we enjoy. Do you have like an example of that? Like, what's an example of how you deploy your freedom? Maybe here we've got to be able to make life everything we want it to be, and not someone deciding it for me. Yes, I think that's a very good characterization, but that's at a very broad level. Let's see if we can get some actual specifics. Like what specifically do you want to use your freedom for, or what specifically do people like to use their freedom to do?
I mean, we're in a college class right now, you know.
Oh,
Not everyone can do that.
okay. So we can
Education.
we can attend a university if we want, right? Something like that. That's a good use for freedom. Let's see. There was a freedom of expression. Oh, I like that one. That's good. Let's put that one down. We can say what we want when we want. You got to put with some limits though, because of course, in the United States of America, you've got a constitution that legally guarantees your freedom of speech, but that's not an unlimited freedom of speech. I'll give you two kinds of examples of legal limitations on freedom of speech, which are probably also moral limitations, but let's just look at the legal ones.
Hate speech.
No, hate speech is not illegal. It might be immoral, but it's not illegal. If you want to stand on a corner spouting the views of the Ku Klux Klan, you're completely entitled to do that in the United States. And you can use racially inflammatory language. There's no restriction on that kind of stuff. Sorry about that. That's my phone. I will fix that. What you can't do though is you can't use your speech to put people in active danger. So for example, if you're the classic example of this is you can't yell fire in a crowded theater when there's no fire. Now, as you're like, what's a theater? No, remember before the pandemic when people used to go to the movies? Well, when there's crowds of people inside a dark room, if someone yells that there's an emergency, people are going to flood to the exits. And in doing so, they can cause harm to others. Yeah, he's got a gun. You get some of these restrictions at like the airport, right? You can't just say, don't make jokes about bombs in an airport. Not in the United States, right? You will quickly see how constrained your freedom of speech really is. And in addition to that, there's a couple of crimes or torts really, slander and libel. That's when you defame a person in a way that injures their ability to carry out their job, to earn a living, but it's with lies. So, for example, if you were to say of somebody who's a chiropractor, right? They work with people, they have their hands on people a lot. If you were to like go online and say, oh yeah, that person's got contagious necrotizing fasciitis, and if you go there, you're going to get this horrible skin disease and die. Well, if that's not true, then you can actually be sued for saying that because it's damaged that person's ability to carry out their profession. Now, so there are some restrictions on free speech, but I think it's generally right that more or less we can, at least in America, we can say what we want when we want. There were a couple other suggestions. Let's see here. Let's see. Choose who we want to represent us in office. Oh, yeah. I like that one. That's good. So we can vote for the candidate whom we want to win, right? And actually, that's a completely, well, okay, yeah, most people have that freedom. Some people do not have that freedom. For example, if you are under the age of 18, you're not going to be eligible to vote in most elections in the United States. Also, if you have committed certain felonies in certain states, you may not be allowed. But leaving that aside, you can vote for whoever you want if you're eligible to vote. And what I mean, and I really mean, you can vote for whomever you want. You can literally write in fictional characters and make that your vote. Every single year, every single election year for a president, Mickey Mouse gets thousands of votes, right? I mean, it just, and I'm sure, you know, other fictional entities get them too. So yeah, you can vote for whom you want. And let's see here, could even be small activities such as being able to play video games or read a book when we want. Yeah, I think that's good. You can play the games that you want. You know, again, with more, you know, more or less. So I can't just walk into your house and play your Xbox without your permission. But you know, I'm.
If you meet the qualifications, you can fight for your country, as opposed to some countries forcing you to do such.
Ah, yes, you can join the military if you want, right? You're free to join the military in the sense that you're not compelled to do it. I mean, I know we still have in this country a selective service requirement for men between the ages of 18 and 25 or something like that. I had thought that they were going to expand that to women as well, but I guess that never happened. But yes, even though there's a Selective Service Act, there hasn't been a draft since the Vietnam era. So for decades now, there's been genuine freedom about joining the army. Let's see. I think Harambe got some votes as well. Yes, that's Harambe. Somebody help me. Is that the chimp? Is it an ape? A gorilla?
A gorilla, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. But was he like deaf or something? Or
no, there was a baby that fell into his enclosure and he, like, came over to it. He didn't do anything to the kid.
Oh, okay.
They killed him just in case, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay, but he got famous because of that, right? He got internet famous because of that. Yeah, freedom of religion. That's a good one. You can practice. Well, you can believe the religion you want. And actually, that has zero restrictions in the United States. There are no legal restrictions at all on what religion you can hold. But practice the religion you want with some limits. Why do I say with some limits? Well, you know, look, if you want to keep kosher, that's fine. You can do that. But if you want to sacrifice virgins, then not so much, right, in the United States. So even if that's part of your religious, beliefs to execute people on certain, special days of the year, you're still legally prohibited from doing that in the United States. Nevertheless, most people think that the United States has a pretty free system for religious belief. Lots of religions are not only tolerated but supported by the economic policies that the United States has. Let's see. Choose whatever job you want to pursue. Yes. I'm going to add this to the list, and then I'm going to move on from here. Let's see. You can at least attempt to get the job, or better yet, let's make this bigger. Get the career you want. Yeah, you can make the attempt, right? You can't be guaranteed to get the career you want. Otherwise, there'd be way more people in the NFL. I mean, I would definitely, like whatever job Paris Hilton has, that's, I'd sign me up for that. I'd take that. So you can attempt to get the career you want, or even choose to leave a job. Yes, that's actually right. You can, the freedom to pursue the career you want means that you have the freedom to leave the job that you want. Now, I want you to look at this list, okay? And I want you to see whether you can spot something that is common to all of these. Yeah, it's the, that's right. Yes, it's the wants, right? It's the wants. So all of these are couched in terms of desires, in terms of what we want, what you want, right? And someone might think this. Someone might think that freedom is just doing what you want. Now, we're going to explore that in some detail, but what I want to do initially is I want to put a little pressure on this conception of freedom. Not conclusive pressure, just a little pressure. Let me come back to me, and let me pop back to my face here. Okay. So I want you to think about I'm going to tell you a story here. It's a fictional story, but I think one that you'll be able to understand, and we can draw some conclusions from it, or at least draw some interesting challenges from it. Imagine that we didn't live in the society that we currently are in, one where you have all of these freedoms of, religion, and pursue the career you want, and have, make friends whom you want. Suppose we lived in a society that was much more heavily controlled. And what's the nature of the control that I'm interested in? Well, imagine a society where the government had taken extreme measures to ensure the long-term prosperity of the people. And how did it do this? It did it by utilizing very direct and high-tech methods to generate certain kinds of character traits and biological features of the population, or within the population. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, whenever the government recognizes that there's a deficiency in some given profession, like they don't have enough plumbers or something like that, then they will set about the task of creating more people who are disposed to be plumbers. Now, how could they do that? Well, part of it is genetic. They could, I mean, you got to assume a little sci-fi here. So, I mean, we're working, this is a story, so allow me a little bit of futuristic sci-fi. Imagine that they isolate the genes that are responsible for things like spatial reasoning and hand strength and manual dexterity and some facility with mathematics. They isolate those things, and then they deliberately put those genes into embryos of growing humans, right? So that they know, they can be assured that a certain crop of humans will come out genetically equipped to actually be pretty good plumbers, right? And I mean, genetics does play a role in our abilities to do certain tasks. I mean, there's a reason. There's several reasons, but there's a really pretty obvious reason why I am not in the NBA, but like LeBron James is, right? So LeBron James is like a 6'8", hugely muscular, incredibly coordinated, really good vision, has an excellent sense for teamwork kind of stuff. I mean, I lack these skills. I was never good at sports. I'm kind of paunchy. I'm 6'1" with my shoes on. So I'm not really good at basketball. In fact, I'm terrible at basketball, right? And part of that, not all of it, but part of it is genetic. Yeah, I'm just a little bit. I just kind of lack some features which would make basketball easier. So suppose this government creates deliberately creates embryos, human embryos, that have these genetic features that dispose them towards being good at plumbing. And then when the kids are born, they actually take them away from their parents and raise them in special facilities where the children can be exposed, these special babies who are genetically predisposed for plumbing skills. They encourage plumbing type behavior in the kids. Like as the kids are growing up, they give them toys like monkey wrenches and pieces of PVC pipe and so on. And every time the kids try to play with other toys, like they play around with fire trucks, the government people will slap them on the wrist or something like that and discourage that. And then as these kids grow, the government deliberately exposes them to media which promotes the values and virtues and honorable qualities of plumbers to make plumbing seem like a deeply noble profession. They surround these kids with other kids who are in the same program so that all their friends are also interested in being plumbers, and there's social reinforcement of the plumbing behavior. So every time the kid does something which would be suggestive of plumbing type activities, like the kid's curious and he gets under the sink and starts playing with the pipes. Well, the government people who are raising this kid will come over and praise the kid. They'll say, "Oh, good job, here's a piece of candy. That's excellent," right? And every time they see the kid going off to do other things, like reading a book about art history or something like that, they go, "No, that's bad. You got to stop doing that." They punish the kid. So this kid grows up, right, in this environment where plumbing is being displayed as the ultimate kind of career goal. And they are genetically equipped to be very good at plumbing. They have like the right wrist strength. They have the good vision for how pipes can be related to each other. They have some mathematical skills to handle the fluid dynamics that go on in plumbing. You give them genes that allow them to endure being in cramped spaces for long periods of time without being psychologically bothered, or you psychologically weed out the fear of dirt and so forth. I mean, just tell the whole story, right? Give the whole sci-fi picture of a society deliberately creating plumbers. Okay? Do you follow me so far? Okay. So, I want you to think about what would happen if on this kid's 18th birthday, his original parents come up to him and they go, "Okay, you're 18 years old now. What do you want to be? What do you want to do in life?" What do you think this kid is going to say?
I want to be a plumber.
Yeah, he's gonna say, "I want to be a plumber," right? And that's exactly what he's gonna say. Of course he's gonna say he wants to be a plumber. He's lived his entire life being like molded to be a plumber, right? It's not at all surprising that he wants to be a plumber. So the kid says, here, let me come back to this screen. So the kid says, "I want to be a plumber." Duh, right? It's like obvious to him. Of course he wants to be a plumber. It's like the best thing in the world. Why would anybody want to do anything else? Okay, but here's a question. Is this kid freely choosing to be a plumber?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you said absolutely not. Why? I'm curious. Why? What?
His whole life he was taught to be a plumber, and anytime he'd try to stray from that path, he would get negative feedback. So that's all he knows is how to be a plumber, pretty much. And he was genetically engineered essentially to be a plumber.
So a student in class says that this kid is definitely not freely choosing to be a plumber because he's been subjected to deliberate encouragement to become a plumber all his life. And so even though he's making the choice, it's not really a free choice. Let's see what, let's see here. David said, oh wait, we got a lot of people saying that he's free. So let's see here. David, Joseph, Matthew, let's see, his circumstances are certainly different, However, if you were asking him and giving him a choice, then it's his choice. Good. Okay. So David's got this a different opinion from the one that was just offered. One which aligns actually a little better with this original idea about what freedom might be, right? Just doing what you want, whatever that happens to be. I know people have been raised in church who turn out to, hang on a second, let's see. I know people have been raised in church who turn out to not be so godly. Yes, that's true, Joseph. So, so that's why I wanted the story that I was telling to be a little bit sci-fi. I wanted you to think of a situation where there's no practical way that this kid is going to make a different decision in this situation, right? He's been genetically predisposed, he's been socially encouraged, he's been educated in such a way that plumbing comes to the forefront of his psychology. And if you still think like, oh no, people can still get around that, just keep pushing it harder, right? I mean, imagine a government that's using hypnotism, and yeah, right. They hypnotize these kids, or they give them psychotropic drugs, and then encourage the behavior while they're susceptible to suggestion, right? So I mean, really, give them the full Monty, right? All the technology. Let's see, because even though it is a pre-choice, he still wants to do it and thinks it would be awesome. Yes, he definitely. So Matthew says this. Yes, he does think it would be awesome. Absolutely, that's correct. You say it's a pre-choice, though. So my question is not whether he's choosing it, but whether he's freely choosing it. I'm not denying that he's making a choice, right? If you ask this kid, are you sure? Do you really want to be a plumber? You don't have to. He's going to go, yeah, absolutely, I'm sure. You know, I've thought about it. Yeah, I'm aware that there are other professions, but yeah, I want to be a plumber.
Because if you ask the kid himself, he's going to say, yeah, I'm freely choosing this. But he doesn't realize all the things that went into him leading up to that very moment.
Yes. So a student in the class points out that, of course, if you ask the kid whether he's freely choosing this, he's going to say yes. But the kid isn't aware of all the causes of his current psychological state. Let's see here. Yes, because even if you are in an environment where everyone says something, at the end he was asked to choose and he chose. Okay, very good. Now, Neri, so you are completely correct that he is making a choice in this scenario. One of the things that we're going to do in this section of the course is we're going to distinguish, let me write this down. We can distinguish between a choice and a free choice. Or maybe we can, or how about this, an unfree choice and a free choice. Choice, in the way that I want to use it here, is the event in which a decision is made. So you're contemplating what to do, and then there's this decision, right? This choice where you are then going to carry out some behavior. But it's that should be and, sorry. But the question that I'm concerned with here is whether, in the case of this kid who's been subjected to all this pressure, whether his choice is really free. Let's see. He did not, so Carissa says, he did not choose what he wanted, but they quite literally built him to follow that path his whole life. It doesn't sound like it's his choice entirely. Oh, I like this way of framing it. It doesn't sound like it's his choice, right? Like it might be somebody else's choice. Like maybe it's the government's choice that's going on there. It's not really the kids. That's a possibility. And certainly this point that the kid was subjected to all manner of influence to bring about this desire to be a plumber, all of that, to many people, speaks against his being free when he makes that choice. It looks like he's just inevitably going to make this choice and therefore isn't free. And let's see, and David says, I would want someone else to ask to ask him that is not an elder or parent, like a trustworthy friend, and see his answer.
It would
Yeah,
stay the same, though.
this is a really, so I know where you're coming from, David, with this, because this is the sort of thing where, oh, actually, you know what it's related to? It's related to a comment earlier. It's related to Joseph's comment up here. So it's true that in our world, like our actual world, you will find people who grow up, for example, in religious communities, who when they are adults, for whatever reason, might take on a different religious attitude. But they would be, and now I'm going to switch to the comment down here, but they would be unwilling to say that they're taking a different religious attitude because they don't want to offend their family or lose their social connections with these people that they love, whom they've grown up with in this religious community. Yeah, but and that's absolutely correct. And so if we were wondering whether somebody is freely choosing a religion in our world, I would agree with this, that it's probably better to have somebody neutral who does not have a significant connection to the person to ask the question. And actually that's often how the true, honest answers are ferreted out. You get people to respond anonymously, or to respond to third parties like therapists or caseworkers, social workers, and things like that. Okay, so we've got some different views about this, which is good. I wanted there to be different views about this. Now here's a, whoops, let's see here. Oh, this is a long one. If we're talking sci-fi, then we could use the Jedi taking children from birth and grooming them in their ways and telling them that this is the life they should be living for the greater good. But they end up leaving the order even though it's how they were raised. It's purely fictional, it's just a possible example. Yes, so in that fictional case, I know the stories, that Star Wars genre, those kids are raised to have a certain belief set, but it's not pushed on them in the ways that my story is designed to be, right? I want this to be full blast hypnosis. They use drugs to influence the kid's brain. They use stimulus response techniques, right, with pain and reward in order to get them to behave in the ways that are plumbing related. So is this kid freely choosing to be a plumber? If you think that this kid is not freely choosing to be a plumber, or if you kind of have that feeling like that might be the right answer, I want you to consider the following. Let me come back to, oops, where am I? Here we go. Okay, let me come back to me. I want you to consider the following. You, all of you, right now, have a certain set of genetic traits that are unique to you. I mean, not completely unique. Obviously, we're very similar to one another in a whole variety of ways. But we are, if you look at the total set of genes that we have, we are all different from one another. Okay, what does that mean? Well, that means that we came into the world equipped with different sets of natural abilities, natural limitations. Like, for example, I'm only so tall. I can't just make myself taller by force of will. I can't practice and get taller, right? There's a genetic limit to how tall I can get. Similarly with muscle tone, there's a certain genetic feature that goes into that. You can, for some people, you can only get so bulky from muscles before your genetics just put a limit on that. And then there's lots of innate skills that people have, like balance and timing and dexterity, which are not completely, but are often very well connected to or have significant connections to their genetics. In addition to that, each of you has had a unique set of experiences as you've grown up. You were raised by whomever raised you, your parents, your foster parents, your abuela, your tia, whatever. You've been exposed to a certain kind of nurturing or lack thereof, and that had an effect on all sorts of beliefs that you have about how to interact with people, about what religion to have. I mean, look, just take religion for a second. It is not completely an accident that there are tons of Muslims in Saudi Arabia and tons of Catholics in Costa Rica. The reason for that, or one of the dominant reasons for that, is that the parents of the people, of most people in Saudi Arabia, were Muslim. And the parents of most people in Costa Rica are Catholic. And just from your parents' religion, that is a very good predictor of what the child's religion is going to be, right? That's why you don't see vast shifts in religious attitudes among nations, except over very long stretches of time, right? You don't see quick shifts. So as you're growing up, you absorb stimulus from the people around you, your family, your social circle, your friends have an influence on what on the choices you make. So, for example, looking around the room, I can't see everybody at home, but I'm looking around the room right now, and I'm noticing something. Just as a first pass, you all dress more or less like Americans. You know, you do not dress like people from Bhutan. You know, if you ever here, let me show you what I mean by that. Bhutan is this little country in the Himalayas. Let me show you the Bhutan clothing. Bhutan is this little country in the Himalayas, and they dress differently than we do in the United States. This is typical Bhutanese dress, and this is high-end Bhutanese dress. You know, here's some other neat photos. Here's some kids, right? That's really typical Bhutan style of clothing. And I noticed that none of you in this classroom are wearing it. I'll bet you don't even have clothing like this at home, right? There's a reason for that. And the reason is you weren't raised in Bhutan. You were raised in the United States. And so you are disposed to, oh, that's so funny. His brother, look at that. His brother's been there. He got to wear those robes. That's great. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's possible, of course, that you could wind up wearing them, but it's unlikely because this is a cultural thing, you know, and you acquire culture from the people who you happen to be living around and the people who you happen to see every day and interact with every day. Also, if you, this style of dress would actually be socially, you would have social problems, or like there would be social issues to you wearing this, especially the younger you are. So if you show up in like as a sophomore in high school wearing these kinds of clothing in some places, you might well be ridiculed, right? I mean, this is actually a problem that this is one of the reasons that people who choose to wear clothing that is not traditionally associated with their sex sometimes feel humiliated by the groups of people around them. So I'm talking about the group of transvestites. So men who dress as women or women who dress as men, or as men typically do, typically do in all cases. There's a stigma that's associated with that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it just is a fact. There's that people who violate the kind of social norms of a given location are given negative feedback, and that negative feedback it influences them to change the way that they present themselves. So this is why in the United States people dress a certain way, and they don't necessarily dress that way in other places. Definitely, you wouldn't make it out of mine and Joseph's high school. Yeah, well, you know, they're good. Okay, so we got some evidence for that right here, some firsthand evidence. Okay, so sorry. When I went to Japan, everyone wore designer clothes and designer shoes. Yeah, I think it's possible that the standard of living in Japan is a little higher. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But there are differences. You get beat up for wearing something like that. Yeah. So each of you has, sorry, let me come back to me. Each of you has your own genetic traits with some built-in talents and and deficiencies. Each of you has your own upbringing, which encouraged you to behave in certain ways and not others. And then each of you have been exposed to a variety of media sources, television, radio, movies, internet, magazines, that have influenced you. They've influenced the way that you talk, they influence the way that you dress, they influence the political decisions that you make, they influence what you regard as cool and not cool. And it's really hard to avoid being influenced like that. I mean, look, I'm not saying I'm any special exception here. You know, I dress the way I dress partly because I am trying to conform to standards kind of Texas look, you know? That's why I wear these gingham shirts. So we have these influences in our lives. Now, here's the thing. All of those causes are hard to trace, right? It's hard to know exactly what your genetic dispositions are until you get, you know, older or you do a genetic test. It's hard to know exactly how much influence your mother had on you versus your best friend versus your third grade teacher. It's hard to tell. And sometimes the causes of your choices later on in life, the causes of your behavior later on in life are, you know, they're hard to trace back to their origins. But it does look like these causes are real. If I were to take a baby who was born in Bhutan and bring them to America and raise them here, they're not going to feel any inclination to dress like a person from Bhutan. They're going to feel the inclination to dress like a person from America. Yeah? And the reverse is true too, right? If I take an American baby and I transport them to Bhutan and let a Bhutanese family raise them, they're going to dress like a Bhutanese person. They're going to be Buddhist, right? Because all of Bhutan is Buddhist, or almost all of it. They're going to have different aspirations because of how they were raised. Like being from Texas and saying the word y'all in New York. Yeah. Actually, there's an equivalent to y'all in New York. It's not y'all, though. Do you guys know this? The second person plural in New York and New Jersey? It's yous, right? All yous. Like, all yous guys, get over here. Yeah, okay. So here's the upshot. You, right now, may be in the same position as this plumber kid.
You can argue you choose who you hang out with that influences you, though. This kid didn't have that same choice.
Say that again?
You can argue that you choose who you hang out with and who influences you, rather, than this kid who is forced this certain path.
Well, okay, so the student is a student in class is saying that there's a difference between our situation and my fictional case of the kid choosing to be a plumber. And that difference is that we, unlike the kid in the story, choose, and you gave a few examples, who to hang out with, right? Well, to an extent. I'll say that, to an extent. Because in one, I mean, there's a geographic problem here, because you are going to wind up interacting with people who live locally to you, right? I mean, I know we're in the internet age here, but if you went to elementary school, you probably went to elementary school with other people who lived in your neighborhood.
Well, not entirely, because some people who are, they like live in a military household.
Yes.
They move constantly.
Yeah.
I've lived in like 8 different states.
Absolutely. Yeah, military households do move around a lot, but here's something about that.
Oh, but then you're with other military.
Then you're with other military people, exactly. And actually, military culture is its own set of influences, right? So if you grew up in a military household, you're more likely to have, you know, respect for volunteer service, a sense of duty, a better sense of patriotism, more inclined to be interested in the history of things. These are just typical, you know, things I've noticed about military families. So no matter how you grew up.
But the difference, I feel like
Yeah.
we can just drop everything right now and move to XYZ and pursue something completely random, right?
Okay,
You
so
can't do that.
so hang on, let me repeat this because that's a very good point. So a student in class just said that we could, if we wanted to, just drop everything, give up our current lives, move somewhere else, and live a radically different kind of existence than we actually do, right? Yeah, maybe you could do that. I mean, there's a certain sense in which I could break my own fingers right now, right? I mean, I have the physical strength to do it, right? I've got a finger, I've got a whole other hand. I could grab one of these fingers and I could just break it, yeah? And it would cause me tremendous pain, but I'm physically capable of it. But am I going to do it? No.
Maybe if you're tired of your current life.
Sorry?
Maybe if you're tired of your current life.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you get tired of your current life, then there's something in your life that's causing you to feel what? Anxiety, fear, pressure, depression. And whatever those causes are, they're causes. So if it's making you adopt a different view about what kind of life you should be leading, like it's making you think, you know, I should move away from here, or I should pursue a different major, or I should break up with this person and get a new boyfriend, or whatever. If your emotions are bringing about this shift in your desires, then it looks like you're just being controlled by your emotions, and that you're not really like making free decisions about these things. You're just kind of reacting.
No matter what, your emotions are going to control you because you want to pursue something that makes you happy, and that's an emotion. You don't want to sit, and do something that'll make you miserable all day unless you absolutely have to. In that case, it's passion for whatever you need to do, which is another emotion.
Yeah, so we do have, so a student is pointing out that we do have, that emotions are part of life, and that we are constantly subject to our emotional states. It's actually quite hard to step away from your own emotions, to do that type of detachment. It's a skill, you can develop it. So for example, what's a good example of this? Emergency room doctors, right? Emergency room doctors very often have to learn how to detach themselves from their emotional states towards other people. And the reason for that is because they cannot allow their fear or disgust or worry to impede their medical judgment. And so they need to cultivate this ability to be kind of cold, right? And so you sometimes see that in ER physicians. There are other cases where that's true too. So yeah, we are subject to our emotions, but the question I'm asking here is, or not really the question I'm asking you to think about this, right? I'm asking you to consider this. To what extent is your behavior really under your control? There was actually a nice comment about this in the, there was a very nice comment about this in the chat. Let me see if I can bring that up again. So let's see, in the chat, somebody pointed this out. They said, oh yeah, here, it was Carissa. She said about that boy in my story, it doesn't sound like it's his choice entirely. So there's a question to be asked about whether choices that are made on the basis of emotions really are that person's choice, like if it's original to them, if it's authentically them, or if it instead it's some combination of external forces that have brought about this emotion, and now the person's choices are responding to that causal chain that led up to their present psychological state.
That's a hard question.
Oh, it's a very hard question.
You're asking, like, who are you as a person? influenced by others, then you have to like I guess isolate yourself for X amount of time, but then that would influence who you are even more. So.
Yeah, it's complicated. I'll grant you that. I don't want to settle this right now. What I'm doing is I'm trying to point out this, that when you start thinking about what freedom actually is, and you start enumerating the various things that we use our freedom for, and by the way, I think this is a very good list, it starts to become apparent that a lot of these freedoms are couched in terms of wants, in terms of desires. And then when you start asking questions about how those desires, how those wants came to exist within your psychology personally, it's a challenge, because we might be in the same situation as this plumber kid, except that we haven't been deliberately crafted to make all the decisions we're making. Instead, we're just kind of we might be the inevitable result of the combination of causes that we were faced with as we were, from our genetics and from our early education and from our social experiences and from our media exposure. All of that contributes to our memory and to our inclinations, right? We get some of our desires are conditioned into us. I mean, again, all of you are wearing American style clothing, yeah? And it's not because, I just cannot believe that each one of you individually just surveyed the world, wardrobes and was like, yeah, American, that's the way I'm going. No, instead, you just grew up in a culture that pushed American style dress. And if you weren't wearing American style dress, you were going to be socially chastised. And it doesn't have to be even explicit. It doesn't have to be someone going, oh, your clothing really sucks. It can just be, that they don't want to associate with you, or they give you a kind of slant-eyed look, or, they tilt their head at you in a weird way and kind of, huh? What are you wearing that for? Without even saying it. Somebody in the chat, let's see. I would say that it is just someone or something that has a powerful influence on you, and you value that influence. So it is totally correct that there are some influences that you value, and you may enjoy being influenced by a person or a theme or a political party or a religious outlook that you like. However, that is not the only thing that influences you. There are plenty of other things that will influence you even though you don't like them. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I'm making you, in this class, I'm making you write papers, right? You didn't ask to write papers. I'm pushing that on you. Now, you're voluntarily taking the class, but within the context of the class, I'm causing you to behave in a certain way. And I know from experience that not everybody enjoys writing papers. So when I ask you to write a paper, you may well do it despite its being painful, despite its being uncomfortable, despite its being annoying to do. Why are you doing it? Because you have other goals, right? You want to get a good grade in the class, and you probably, that's not your ultimate goal, right? I mean, I doubt, very few of you are going to be here. And this is not a criticism. I mean, this is just how it is. Very few of you are here because you're super, super interested in this class in particular. More likely, you are interested in getting a degree, right? And this class is just one part of getting that degree. But I'll bet it goes even deeper than that. I'll bet that it's not even the degree you really care about. It's what the degree will get you, right? It'll get you the access to the type of, to career that you want, to the type of romantic engagement that you want, to the economic level that you want, to the social group that you want. And so you're picking this major, whatever major it may be, and you're choosing to educate yourself, to get educated, so that you can accomplish these other goals. But in the context of achieving those other goals, you're being made to do things, you're being made to jump through hoops, right? Now you're willing to do it, but only because it's in service to this other goal, yeah? So it's not always the case that the influences that are strongest on you are the ones that you like. A really clear example of that is criminal behavior, right? So if someone enjoys murdering and then they get caught and locked up for murder and then they can no longer murder anymore, they're definitely being influenced in a certain way against what they like, but the influence is very strong. Okay, I've been talking a lot here. Questions, thoughts?
Have you seen that movie where, I forget who's in it, but basically like they're in a society where emotions are like outlawed and you have to take these pills?
Yes, I have. It's, I know the film. It's called, is it called Equilibrium?
If that sounds familiar.
So the student is out, yeah, it's Equilibrium. So yeah, good one. So a student referenced this film here, Equilibrium, and this is a very cool film actually. And the premise of this movie is Christian Bale and Sean Bean. It's awesome. The premise of this movie is that emotions have been like eradicated from society deliberately in order to reduce the hostility between people, to reduce crime, right? But how do you reduce emotions entirely? Well, you have to use drugs to get people to not feel them, but you also have to take away the sources of emotions like art and literature and so forth, and that's a pretty dramatic thing to do. But having done that, it's not at all obvious that the people portrayed in this film are more free. In fact, they might be less free because they're being so controlled by government activity. I hope I was, I wasn't even casting that. I'm sorry. Here, let me put that up for people at home to see. Because if you're looking for a good movie to watch, Equilibrium, this is a good film. Yeah, good film about free will. Yeah, okay. Let's see here. What do we got? Okay. So, one of our big questions is going to be this. To what extent can we have free will when we know that we are subject to a variety of causes for most of our behavior? I mean, most of our behavior. I mean, I'm looking around the room right now, and I'm noticing that the students in the room are extremely well behaved. Yeah, that is to say, none of you have reached out and assaulted anybody else. You're not stealing from each other. You're very good at giving me, the professor, the respect of like listening to me. You're sitting attentively. That's great. I mean, that's fabulous. But it's a conditioned type of behavior. You probably have years and years of schooling where you were made to do exactly this, right? Like starting from kindergarten, where you're made to sit still, sit quietly, fold your hands, and then over time, that reinforcement of behavior becomes just part of your character. It becomes part of who you are. So yeah, of course I'm going to sit, not quietly, but I'm going to sit respectfully in class. I'm going to cooperate with this educational endeavor. Yeah, sure. I want to do it. I want to be a good citizen, a good citizen of the university, a good citizen in my community. I actually have that desire. But how did I get that desire? Well, part of it is because I was raised right. Yeah? Part of it is because there's social pressure on me to behave that way. Part of it is because if I don't behave that way, I'm going to get negative reinforcement. So to what extent are are we actually free? This is our question, right? Okay, so let me just show you one thing, and then I'll close it out for the day. Okay, so let me share my screen and show this to you. Booyah. Okay. No, I don't want that. I want, where's that other thing? Oh yeah, here we go. So in the course content link, after the first assignment instructions, you're going to see this thing, 3 theories and 3 questions. And that document, when you open it, looks like this. Chart. Let me, maybe I can make this smaller so you can see that it's a chart. So it's a chart, yeah? And on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, you've got the 3 theories of free will, or 3 theories about free will, that we're going to be talking about in this class. One is called hard determinism. Another is called libertarianism. That's not the political view. That just happens to be the name of this theory of free will. And then the last one is called compatibilism. These theories can be roughly defined by how they respond to these 3 questions at the top. Are we fully determined? Do we ever have free will? Are we ever morally responsible? And as you can see, the different theories give different sets of answers to these questions. One of the ways that you can tell, in fact, the very best way for you to tell that you are understanding the material in this section of the course is if you can understand this chart. If you can explain what these questions are actually asking, and if you can explain why the theory gives the answer it does. If you can do that, then you're right on track. And actually, I'm going to orient all of our discussions towards this chart, right, to help you fill in the gaps. So one of the first things we're going to do is explore what it means to be fully determined. Then we're going to ask, what are different conceptions of free will so that this question has some bite? And then we're going to see that there's a very important link between free will and moral responsibility. And we'll explore that in some detail. That sound okay? Yeah, I know, it's a big topic. Okay, well, I think that's good. All right, so let's stop there. We will continue with our discussion of free will on Tuesday. I will be discussing determinism in some detail, and we'll be, getting into hard determinism, and that's Dolbach's article in very short order next week. In the meantime, please work on your papers. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to help you. All right, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you at home. I appreciate it. You too. We'll see you. Very cool, Shelley. Yep, that works.